Okay, and welcome back. This is all about how to test everything on the front end of the airplane before you commit to anything. There's a lot of inner workings of this front end, and you have to do a dry run, I'll call it, or a test, to make sure everything is going to work correctly. So what I've done is I've done that, and now I'm going to show you working backwards exactly what I did. Okay. So the first thing is the throttle push rod is threaded on that end and has a clevis on it, and it's attached to the throttle servo arm, and the throttle servo arm is all the way back. And here the throttle, the carburetor arm, control arm, is all the way back, meaning the throttle is closed and the servo is in the closed position. Now, looking at the distance that this is away from the arm, it means I'm going to have to bend this arm over and then straighten it again, and then have a Z-bend in the a Z-bend at the end to put it into the carburetor arm. Now, it appears to me that that's barely going to work. Okay, I'm going to lose some distance going this way and then coming back over, and it just might be enough to put a Z-bend on the end. Remember, I'm not going to use those 90-degree keeper things, plastic keeper things. They fall off. And I don't like the other kind of thing that they have, which is the two screws on a barrel, because those two screws never stay on right. And I don't want to lose my throttle. So, if this isn't long enough, my backup plan is I've got a 30-inch push rod that's threaded on one end. It's 30 inches. This rod is only 20 inches. They're the same size, so they'll fit in the tubing. And so that's going to work. So I have a solution for that. Okay, so now I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to work backwards here. I'm going to take that push rod out. In order to take that push rod out, I got to take the clevis off that clevis off the arm of the servo. And I'll just pull that all the way out. Okay. So, that's one thing I'm testing. The next thing I'm testing is the engine itself. Okay, the engine is supposed to be mounted from the front of the firewall 4 1/4 inches out to the what's called the thrust washer. Okay, this smaller black washer here is not the thrust washer. What's behind it is the thrust washer, and that's what drives the prop. So, and that's the critical distance, is 4 1/4 inches from the front of the firewall to there. So I have put the engine on the mount, and using a Sharpie marker, I've marked where that is, and I'll measure it again before I'm done, but and before I make my critical drilling. Remember, all this testing is repeatable, because I have not done anything to fix it or glue it or anything like that. Okay, so so I have the engine position, and the other thing there was the engine fits snugly between the two engine mounts. So what I was testing here was how far apart the engine mount should be, because the engine mount has slots in it, so you can change the width of the engine mount. And as it turns out, the engine mount has to be inboard all the way. for it to properly mount that engine. So now I know where the engine mount needs to be, and I'll take one side of the engine mount off here. Okay. Remember, because I'm using that Sullivan tank, the Sullivan tank does not come through the firewall. So I have a solution for that, in that I have this wooden piece here, okay, that holds the 3 tubes, okay, and I've got this piece here. I think you've seen that before, and I had to make sure that the width of this would fit between that, and at first it didn't, so I sanded it down, and now it does. So that was something I tested. Okay. The other thing is, now that we get inside here, okay, you have to make sure that the hatch and the tank aren't touching one another. Okay, so you have to make sure, and I have done that by visual inspection. You can see through these holes or shine a light back in the other direction and see that there's a clearance between the top of the tank and the inside of the hatch. You always got to make sure that that's going to work. Okay. Now comes a little more interesting part: how to mount the tank. Mounting the tank is important because mounting the tank, the center line of the tank ought to be close, not exact, but close to the center line of the engine. You can't mount this tank on the floor down here of the fuselage. It's just too hard to pump that fuel up. So the center line of the tank needs to be basically where this hole is, the center line of this hole, within reason. Okay, so if you can see where it is, okay, you can see that the tank itself is the top of the tank is here. Okay, the center of the tank is right about there, and that's where this hole is in the front. Okay, so now how did I get there, and how am I holding it? Well, I've decided to use Velcro. Okay, so I've got 2 pieces of Velcro holding the tank down, and that's really all you need. Okay, so there's the tank. I've got 2 long pieces of Velcro, and inside there I've got a 2-inch thick piece of foam that I keep on hand. I use it for lots of times you need foam to support stuff or do stuff. This is green 2-inch thick foam, which, by the way, sticks to the as you can see, it sticks to the Velcro, to the hook side of the Velcro. So there's the 2-inch piece of foam, and that foam is not going to move because it's held by the Velcro, and then there's pressure on the Velcro down on the tank, and the tank's not going to move. And so I've got 2 pieces of Velcro, and those Velcros are actually hooked. I have put a small piece of Velcro inside underneath the floor here, so that those Velcros don't slide around. So let's see, what else is there? Oh yeah, one other thing that we're going to, when we're done, the Velcro was actually in here holding this tube in place, but back here somewhere I'm going to epoxy this plastic tube back here on the just inside the cabin. Haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do that, but because it will probably involve creating a piece of balsa wood or plywood and drilling a hole in it to hold this, and then gluing it to the main former right here, and so it'll be held here, and we're going to epoxy it out front here with about quarter to a half an inch sticking out. And so those are all the things that solutions you got to make sure you remember to do as you build the front end of the airplane, because they're all interconnected. So now that I've done that backwards, in the next series of videos, I'll show you how I did all this one step at a time to complete the installation of the engine. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned to the next video.